Hi everyone, welcome to Vanessa Mariano's page. How is everyone? We just wanted to apologize because we are running a bit late. We were meant to be starting at 11, but that's okay. The main thing is that we are here and that we're ready for this wonderful conversation. So we've got hey Urlich, we've got Josh as well, Styles, and we're going to be talking today about, well, Josh is going to be, I guess, leading in a way. His story is going to be leading the conversation about femininity. Let me see what I wrote here. Yeah, just about the feminine energy and how he went from being in gangs to living a life of service to a lot of people that that are struggling and that have struggled in many areas in which he found himself struggling in growing up as a young male here in New Zealand. In high school, right? I think that's where it all started. So Josh, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I guess I'll start with my background. I come from a loving family, very loving family. Yeah. So I was raised in a Christian household. Both parents were really supportive. Both have really powerful traits that they kind of passed down to me and my sisters. So yeah, I was kind of raised in a very positive frame of mind. My dad was like a real achiever, like a real go-getter, really successful businessman with insurance, and he kind of climbed the ladder with work for a long time. And my mother was like the epitome of like the most caring mother. You stub your toe and you get cuddles for like an hour, you know. It's that's some of my fondest memories from childhood were if I hurt myself I would always run to mum, and so she was very, very feminine in that approach. Yeah, so that was sort of like that was my upbringing.
Yeah.
And then we channeled sort of kept the Christianity sort of thing kind of died off. It was a bit of a fad in the family, and it kind of like the faith with a lot of them is still there, but it died off a little bit, became a little bit more lenient. And as I sort of went through school, I kind of struggled to, I guess, understand where I fit in life, and I kind of felt that it was important to be seen as a somebody. It was probably the biggest thing that when I made it to college. Everybody was talking about the other person who was achieving, and
that was kind of familiar to you, though, wasn't it? Because of your father.
Yeah. So like my dad was always like, he has loads of trophies, and he was a big sports person when he was younger. He was a national champion swimmer and good at rugby and all that kind of stuff. And so it was kind of just sports was drilled into us as kids, but I was never really too concerned about how I would achieve. And then when I got to sort of like intermediate college age, that became a bit of a focus.
I just wonder, like when you were a child, when you were very young, was your family unit is what you saw the world as? You saw the world as safe and achieving, and what your friends were quite similar in that way? Like, was that normal? Did you see life as normal? That was just normal, safe.
Yeah.
You achieved, you did well.
Yeah.
You were loved.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
When did it change for you, though? Like, when did you really feel that you were different from the guys in school? Because I remember you sharing a story with me about when you showed affection to your girlfriend and then your guy mate.
Oh yeah, that came later. That was kind of like when I sort of hit early adult years.
Okay.
Was
it like puberty?
19.
Yeah.
19,
so when you were like becoming an adolescent,
You stayed like you were able to stay safe and secure in yourself until that time.
Yes, but throughout high school, at intermediate, I was at it was a private Christian intermediate, and so there was, academics were the focus. Sports, if you were good, then great, but it was never a real focus. And I was good at sports, so everybody sort of looked up to me for things that I achieved in sports. And then I went to Westlake College, which is a big boys' school, biggest one in the country. And I was a nobody there. You know, there were just machines, athletic machines. And for me to not be a somebody with what I knew myself to be a somebody with, it was like really uncomfortable. And I just felt like, you know, who am I here? This little dot on this giant radar. So I started sort of taking my sports more seriously to kind of be recognised. I wanted to be a somebody in sports, to be a somebody in the eyes of other people, if that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I went from representative basketball, played for North Harbour, did really well, worked really hard to be a good basketball player. I wasn't naturally gifted. And then I transitioned over to boxing. And then I built a bit of a reputation at school as the boxer. And I enjoyed that kind of association people would make with me as this guy who could throw his hands. Yeah.
What do you want to tell us about?
So I was going to say, what started breaking down? Was it being in that competition, feeling like nobody, and getting into having to be very, very competitive?
Yes. So basically, what happened was I went through different stages of I went from different sport to different sport. Like I went from basketball to boxing to bodybuilding, and I did really well in all of them. But there was always this sense that it was never quite enough. And I because I wasn't a big somebody, you know, I was a somebody in the eyes of many people, but I would never acknowledge that. And I needed to be, in my world, I needed to be bigger than that. And it became a bit of an obsession to become somebody. And so then when the party scene came around and people knew I could throw my hands from boxing, I kind of took advantage of that and made a bit of a violent reputation for myself for a number of years. And so my reputation in the face of others became that I was a fighter.
And you saw that as being somebody.
It was good for me. Yeah, it was good. I was being acknowledged by everyone for that, and people wanted to go to parties with me because of that, and people wanted to talk about me because of that.
That's where the action is.
Yeah, that's where it all came in.
That's where it kind of started.
Yeah, and because I never really lost any of the sort of street fights, you'd call them. People always wanted me to go out with them, and I had this reputation and acknowledgement from my peers that I was kind of, you know,
So why, after a very nourishing background and that, why do you think that was so important? You know, why didn't you have that before? Or, you know, how did that not see you through that time? Was that because, you know, you're obviously deeply loved, but there was a very strong competitive streak?
Yes, that was probably it. Like I needed, because I wasn't conscious of my actions and whatever, you know, everything that was happening to me back then. If I look back now, it was probably a sense of lack. You know, I didn't know that I felt like I needed to be more, but I just walked in that direction. I had this compulsion to want to be bigger.
That's be number one. Thing. Being second, third is not enough.
Not enough, And I had to keep going until I got there. And when things didn't pan out that way, you know, if I made basketball and I was a reserve point guard, or if I was the runner-up for the Auckland boxing, or if I came second at a bodybuilding competition, or if I won a show and it wasn't, you know, a big show, I had to do something else to make myself bigger and badder. And so that was street fighting and all that kind of stuff. I looked forward to going out for that purpose. So if we had a party with our friends, it would be everybody would want to go to the party for the party, and I would want to go to the party to meet trouble, because there'd be a story that I could take away with that, and that people would see me as somebody after that, and there's an opportunity for me to make a mark. And, to be acknowledged by everyone. And when that acknowledgement came through, it was like, now here it is, and this is what I like, and that became addictive.
And how long did that take?
A long time.
But how long did that each moment last?
Oh,
was that good enough?
Fleeting,
2 days?
Fleeting,
day,
right?
You know?
So like you go through it, everybody talks about it, it's over, and then you've got to fulfill that fix again.
Like cycle.
It's
can't
exactly
It's kind
right.
of like an adrenaline. It's kind of like a drug in a way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just like a drug, I reckon. Yeah. 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 And it became like a real, like a real habit. Yeah. And then, I guess when you kind of, where I only grew up in a little area, and you kind of, you can only get into so many fights in front of so many people to get acknowledged before you start realizing the people that are acknowledged above you are bigger and better. And so that led me into, there was all sorts of things happening behind the scenes. Like I got into drug dealing for money, which was like it was easy for me. I felt lazy. I didn't want to keep working. It felt laborious for no reason, making minimal money for a huge amount of effort putting into it. So I got offered a position doing this drug dealing thing, which was pretty deep in.
So there's a pretty big line to cross, isn't it?
Yep.
So what do you think on reflection that got you over that line from actually fighting? I mean, is it like a frog in boiling water where you slowly boils up, or like that analogy where you put the frog in cold water and slowly heat it up and the frog gets used to it? Is it that this little steps of acceptance?
Yes, because it was with people that were at the bad end of the table.
Yeah.
And I was kind of closer to that. I was pushing towards being closer to that circle that was really looked at.
So were you aware of a grooming type of thing, or was it something else? Couldn't call it grooming. Nobody was there saying, well, we're going to step this guy here.
Yeah.
Or just somehow you just made those little steps?
More so just it happened that way. Yeah, I just made little steps super unconsciously.
Right.
And when the money started coming in, I started thinking, yeah.
All the reward.
Yeah. And I can stay at home and do whatever and then go party on the weekends and get into mischief, And so that became...
What did that do to you? What did that do for you when you were making easy money?
So my personality, like I felt like I was beginning to be this like untouchable person. I was a good street fighter, and I was a drug dealer that didn't have to worry about working, and other people that would talk about me selling this much. Or
were they afraid of you, or do they respect you? How did you feel? Do you feel like they had respect for you, or like they wouldn't cross your line?
I felt they had respect for me. I felt that a lot of them were afraid of me. But if you ask them, they probably just would have had their own little opinion about me. But that was my interpretation, was that they either feared me or had respect for me because of those two things. And then when you get into the drug dealing world, it's a whole other kettle of fish. You see there are much bigger, badder people in that world. And I started seeing people at the deeper end of the pool, and then who they would pay their respects to, which was gang members. And when I saw them being the pinnacle, like they were the pinnacle of where I was going. And it was like I didn't care if I had to. I was sick of trying so hard. I didn't care if I had to stand on people's toes and hurt people, but I would be noticed. And I wanted to be someone powerful, and I didn't care how I was viewed. I just had to be noticed. I had to be a somebody. Didn't matter if it was good or bad, but I just had to be that somebody that was really unique.
Were your parents watching this? And were you?
Yes, they were kind of, I guess my mum was probably pretending that it wasn't happening. And my dad was really, he was, so my dad's an ex-policeman, and to see me going down that route was kind of just breaking his heart slowly. And when he would come home and talk about his sports stories, I would come home and talk about how many people I snapped over. And he was kind of like, okay, this isn't what I like to talk about. And I would kind of begin to get confused as to why he wouldn't engage in those conversations. And it was like, I want to talk about this. And that I couldn't get the acknowledgement from him for that because he wasn't interested. So I had to get it from other people.
The exact opposite of what
Yes, yeah, broke his heart.
Mm.
So I guess I dealt with that by parting, not like I didn't vocally tell them I wasn't a part of the family, but I definitely didn't make too much of an effort to involve myself with my family very much during that time. It was more about me, my world, my friends, my reputation, all that kind of stuff. And so then I went from being a drug dealer who was paying gang members for support to being, I signed the paperwork, not that there is any, but I basically,
contract.
there's not, it's like with myself though, like I'm going to do this. So I crossed that line, and the first thing that I got was this like big engagement from my friends again. It was like, they were really, all the questions came out, and are you sure you want to do this? And then I got to support myself by saying, it doesn't matter, I'm not afraid, kind of thing, and I'll do it. And then you get into the gang world, and then there's...
Can I just stop you there? So that not being afraid, was that kind of an ultimate, to not be afraid?
Yeah, to be untouchable.
How staunch you are.
That was my ultimate,
So that was a very big, in the realm of feelings, how you felt.
Definitely.
Was that you're just simply untouchable?
Definitely.
Yeah. So emotionally, you're untouchable.
Yeah. I thought I was, without thinking about it, you feel invincible. Yeah. I think a lot of people do feel that way until they think about their mortality. Yeah.
Yes.
Consciously.
So in my work, I would see this, a lot of men in particular, with their inner child energy kind of underwater on islands, just removed, totally removed from what is happening, and often the female energy is completely closed down, shut off. So there's just that doing aspect on an engine, if you like, on supercharge,
So the whole, funny you should bring that up. So the whole time that all of this was happening, there was still this leak through of what you would call this feminine energy, and it was like I still had this. It was like this inherent compassion that I had for living animals and babies and children of friends and friends for things that they were going through. If you're a stranger, I didn't care about you, but within my little circle and within my life and everything.
That is typical also of the male energy.
Okay.
It's often kind to what is in its vicinity.
Okay.
So, but everything outside of that vicinity is not there. It's not to be worried about.
Yeah.
Could be the enemy.
Okay.
So it's very much an ownership. This is mine.
Yeah. Right.
Mine,
Okay.
Somebody else's is somebody else's. So somebody else's family, possibly I don't want to put words in your mouth, but their family, their friends,
doesn't matter.
Weren't in your radar. Yeah.
If we cross paths, we cross paths.
Yeah. But you had, I'm not saying, but it's say if this went to war, you had no qualms in shooting them back, because this is mine and that's yours.
That's right.
And this is a very male thing.
Yeah. It's
between us, actually, not between them.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. Really accurate. Yeah.
Yes.
So then, I got into that side of the world, into gangs, and when I got introduced to that, when I sort of put myself in that position, I got to see that there was much bigger, badder fish in the pond. There were sharks, there were real sharks, and then it was like, okay, so...
What was it about though? Like, did they try to get better deals from you? Were they trying to rip you off?
Oh, no, they weren't doing anything to me. It was that I could see what they